All right, let's jump into another deep dive. You sent over a bunch of TechCrunch articles all about AI and tech, and wow, um, this stuff's moving fast, huh?
It really is, yeah.
So we're gonna break down what we think are the big takeaways here, and try to connect some dots for you,
Yeah, definitely.
help you kind of figure out what's going on and why it matters, right?
Totally. And it's fascinating to see how AI is touching so many different areas.
Yeah,
These articles, they cover everything from like the potential TikTok ban to breakthroughs in AI development
right.
and even stuff about like the future of journalism.
It's wild, like that TikTok thing, right? Some of these articles, they're saying it might actually be boosting Mandarin learning here in the U.S.
Yeah, and that's because millions of, US TikTok users,
Yeah.
they basically migrated to a Chinese app called RedNote
Hmm.
to get around the ban.
To
And
get their fix. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And RedNote's default language is Mandarin, so that led to this crazy 216% increase in new Mandarin learners on Duolingo.
Whoa, that's a huge jump. I mean,
It is, yeah.
it seems like some people, they're pretty willing to embrace a new app, even if it is, coming from a company based in China.
Yeah.
But this also kind of brings up those questions about, are we getting desensitized to the data collection practices, especially with these like really engaging social media platforms?
Yeah, it's a valid concern for sure. And
Right.
I mean, after all, the articles do highlight, the security and privacy implications of using apps developed in China, even if they do have, appealing features.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely something to think about as you're, navigating all that digital stuff.
Totally. Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit here and
Mhm.
dive into another one of these developments that's been raising some eyebrows, and that's Mark Zuckerberg and all this debate over copyright and fair use when it comes to AI training.
Ah, yes, the LibGen dataset.
Yeah, this whole thing.
So this is basically a collection of ebooks that was obtained without permission, and apparently Meta used it to train their Llama AI model.
Mm-hmm.
And Zuckerberg defended this practice, said it was, fair use, even though there were apparently internal concerns about the legal implications.
It's a bold move, especially because, you've got authors like Sarah Silverman and Ta-Nehisi Coates. They're actually suing Meta over this very issue.
Yeah.
So this case, it could set a major precedent for how AI companies are getting and using data to train their models, which obviously will have huge implications for the future of AI development, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and while all this legal drama is unfolding,
Uh-huh.
Chinese AI firms, they're making their own moves. So we've got Minimax, which is backed by these huge companies like Alibaba and Tencent.
Right.
They just came out with like 3 new AI models, and one of them has this massive context window.
Yeah, no, for those of you who aren't as familiar with like the technical terms here, a context window basically refers to how much info an AI model can process at once, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's working memory in a way. And in this case, Minimax's new model, its context window is, get this, 31 times larger than GPT-4.
Wow.
So that means it can understand and generate much more complex text,
Yeah.
more nuances, more everything.
Yeah. So this really kind of highlights that intense competition that's going on in the AI field.
For sure.
It also raises questions about how available, how accessible these powerful new tools are going to be. Because while Minimax's models are technically available, the licensing terms are pretty restrictive, which kind of challenges that whole idea of open source AI development.
Yeah, it's a tricky situation for sure.
Yeah, it's a fascinating paradox, isn't it?
Speaking of paradoxes, another one of these articles you sent, it's saying that Gen Z is using ChatGPT more and more for schoolwork, even though it's been shown to, struggle with accuracy in some subjects like math,
Yeah, it seems like convenience and speed, sometimes they win out over reliability,
especially for younger people, right?
especially for those digital natives, yeah.
And the Pew Research Center, they found that over half of teens think it's okay to use ChatGPT for different school tasks like research and essay writing.
But, like the article pointed out, if you rely too heavily on these AI tools like ChatGPT, it could actually hurt the development of critical thinking skills and genuine learning.
Yeah.
It's definitely a trade-off.
For sure. And that brings us to another big thing that these articles highlighted, which is the environmental impact of AI development.
Yeah.
These powerful AI systems, they need a ton of energy to train and operate.
Data centers, right?
Yeah, data centers, they're basically the homes for the servers and all the infrastructure
Mm-hmm.
that runs these AI models. And they're notorious for using up a lot of energy.
They're energy hogs.
Yeah, total energy hogs. But the good news is There's this growing push for sustainability in the tech industry.
Right, right.
Companies like Meta, they're investing in renewables, like solar power.
Yeah, Meta recently bought a whole bunch of solar energy, which shows they're committed to reducing their carbon footprint.
Absolutely. And it's a really positive step.
Yeah.
But it also brings up this question of, can we really rely on just renewable sources in the long term to meet the growing energy demands of the AI industry? It's a big question.
It's a huge question, and that's why some companies are starting to explore other sources like nuclear power,
Yeah.
which has a much higher energy output compared to, solar or wind.
Right.
Google and Amazon, for example, they've said they're interested in nuclear.
Yeah, and it's interesting because nuclear power, it does have some unique advantages, but it comes with its own challenges, like safety and, how to dispose of the waste.
For sure.
So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out.
Absolutely. Speaking of things that'll be interesting to see play out, one of these articles, it kind of sent shivers down my spine.
Yeah.
It's about this popular e-reader called Books.
Okay.
And it was caught spreading Chinese propaganda through its AI assistant.
Yeah, that's a little unsettling.
Yeah, it really kind of highlights how these AI systems could be used for things that, maybe don't align with the values of the people using them.
Definitely.
So this Book's e-reader, it used an AI language model developed by ByteDance, which is the company behind TikTok. And it was, designed for the Chinese market
Right.
and programmed to, reflect the Chinese government's narrative.
So essentially it was pushing a specific agenda.
Yeah, and the article goes into detail about how this AI assistant would, deny events like the Tiananmen Square crackdown and even praise North Korea and Russia.
Yeah.
So this raises some serious concerns about, could AI be used to spread misinformation or propaganda?
Especially if we don't know how the underlying data and training processes work.
Exactly, if there's no transparency, right?
Yeah.
It's a stark reminder that we need to be really careful about the sources of information we're relying on, whether it's a person or, some kind of AI.
Absolutely. It's all about being critical and aware.
Totally. Now, on a lighter note, one of the articles you sent mentioned that OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, is actually investing in local news.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they're funding Axios's expansion into 4 new cities.
Wow.
This is the first time OpenAI's directly funded a media company's newsroom, so it makes you wonder, what are their motivations here, and what could this mean for journalistic independence, right?
Yeah, it's a curious development for sure, especially with this whole evolving relationship between AI and the news.
Right.
On the one hand, AI can be a really powerful tool for journalists. It can help them gather info, analyze data, even generate content.
But on the other hand, there's always that risk, right? Like AI could be used to manipulate public opinion.
Or spread misinformation.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's crucial to have these open conversations about the ethical side of AI
Yeah.
and how it shapes public discourse.
We need to understand how these technologies work, how they might be used, so we can make informed decisions about, how they're developed and how they're used.
Absolutely. Awareness is key.
Agreed. Okay, this is fascinating stuff, but I think we need to take a little break here.
Yeah, let's pause here and we'll come back and pick up where we left off in the next part of our deep dive.
Sounds good.
All right, stay tuned.
Uh,
Okay, so we're back, diving deeper into this world of AI.
Back at it, yeah. And, before we took that little pause, we were talking about the Biden administration's efforts to, regulate AI chip exports and set aside federal land for all these data centers, right?
Exactly.
And it'll be interesting to see how all that plays out, with the changing political landscape.
For sure.
But speaking of the ever-changing AI landscape, one of the articles you sent was about Google and how they're trying to make their Gemini chatbot even better
Yeah.
by adding this real-time news feed from the Associated Press.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting.
It is, and it seems like more and more AI companies are partnering with news organizations these days.
Yeah, it makes you wonder about the future of journalism, doesn't it? In this age of AI, where is it all headed?
Right, will AI eventually become the main source of news for people? And how will that affect human journalists?
It's a big question.
It's a huge question. And how about the spread of information? I mean, will it be more accurate or will it be easier to spread, misinformation?
Yeah, those are all things we need to think about. But while AI can definitely play a big role in gathering and sharing news, I think human journalists are still really important for providing context and analysis and making sure everything is ethical.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit and talk about another area where AI is making a big impact, and that's in our everyday work tools.
Right.
So one of the articles you sent talked about how Google is making all of their AI-powered workspace features free for customers.
Oh, wow.
So that includes things like, those email summaries, automated note-taking, and even access to the Gemini chatbot.
That's I mean, that makes these powerful AI tools available to a lot more people.
For sure. And it puts more pressure on Microsoft because they've been pushing their own AI-powered productivity suite, Microsoft 365 Copilot.
Right. Right.
Oh, and speaking of Microsoft, another article you sent was about how they're launching this pay-as-you-go plan called Copilot Chat.
Yeah. Saw
So
that.
it basically gives you some of the AI-powered features, but at a lower cost.
I think they got some feedback that the full Copilot plan was like too expensive and not always the best value for businesses.
Right, so they're trying to find that sweet spot, right?
Yeah, make it more appealing to a wider range of users.
Exactly. So it'll be interesting to see if this new pricing model works for them.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
And while Microsoft is figuring out their pricing, OpenAI is busy trying to get more people using ChatGPT.
How are they doing that?
Well, they're testing out phone number only signups.
Interesting.
So basically trying to make it as easy as possible for people to try out the chatbot.
That makes sense because I remember reading in one of these articles that OpenAI has actually been losing money.
Yeah, even with all the hype around ChatGPT.
Yeah, they're even thinking about raising prices for their paid plans.
It's a reminder that even with all this excitement about AI, making money is still a big challenge.
Yeah, you need a lot of resources and infrastructure to build and train these AI models. It's not cheap.
It's a big investment for sure. And speaking of investments, another article you sent was about this startup called Rockfish.
Oh,
They just raised $4 million to build this platform for synthetic data.
what is that exactly?
So synthetic data is basically fake data, but it's created specifically to train AI models.
Oh, I see.
So instead of using real-world data, which can be, sensitive or hard to get,
Uh-huh.
they create these virtual data sets.
That's pretty clever, actually.
It is, and it avoids those privacy concerns and limitations that come with real-world data.
It's like building this digital playground for AI, where it can learn and experiment without messing anything up in the real world.
Exactly, and it's not just startups that are doing this.
Hmm.
Big companies like Microsoft are also investing in synthetic data.
It's a pretty exciting field with a lot of potential.
Huge potential, yeah. I mean, think about it. You could use it for financial analysis, cybersecurity, supply chain management, even drug discovery.
The possibilities are pretty much endless.
Absolutely. And speaking of possibilities, we can't forget about AI and video.
Oh, right.
One of the articles you sent was about this company called Synthesia,
Yeah.
and they specialize in creating these like really realistic AI avatars.
It's just in some of their work, it's incredible.
It is. And they just raised $180 million, which values the company at over $2 billion.
Wow. That's a lot of money and really shows how much interest there is in these AI-powered video solutions.
It does. And their technology is pretty cool. You can create videos with these lifelike avatars that can speak any language.
So you could use it for like corporate training, marketing, even personalized entertainment.
Right. It's amazing how far this technology has come. It makes you wonder if, like, someday these AI avatars will be everywhere.
Yeah, like what if they start replacing human actors?
It's possible. I mean, the line between real and virtual is getting blurrier all the time.
It's exciting and a little bit scary at the same time.
I know, right? It's like, this is what technological disruption is all about.
It makes us question everything we thought we knew.
And it forces us to adapt and reimagine what's possible.
And that's why it's so important to stay informed and be part of these conversations.
Right. The choices we make now will shape the future of AI.
Exactly. So let's move on to the final part of our deep dive.
Yeah, let's talk about some of the broader implications of all these AI developments. Wow, we've covered so much ground in this deep dive.
Yeah, we really have.
I mean, from that potential TikTok ban and the whole Mandarin learning thing to like the legal battles over AI training data and all these companies racing to build like the most powerful AI models.
And all the ways AI is changing things, like in schools and how we use energy and even journalism.
And hiring?
Oh yeah, hiring too. It's wild. AI is transforming everything so fast.
It really is. So I guess as we wrap up here, let's take a step back and think big picture, right?
Yeah, it sounds good.
Like, what are the big trends here and what do they mean for all of us?
Well, one thing that really stands out from these articles is just how fast AI is advancing.
Yeah, it's like almost impossible to keep up.
I know, right? And this rapid progress, it creates a lot of opportunities, but it also brings up some serious challenges.
It's like we're living in a sci-fi movie or something.
Yeah, totally. And because things are moving so fast, it's even more important to understand how these technologies work
Yeah.
and how they might affect our lives, you know?
We got to be informed citizens
Exactly.
so we can make good decisions about the future, The future we want to build with AI.
It's not enough to just be impressed by the latest AI gadgets and stuff. We need to have those tough conversations
Right.
about the ethics, about the impact on society, all of it.
One of the articles you sent, it talked about how AI could be used for things that, well, maybe we don't want it to be used for, like that whole thing with the books e-readers spreading Chinese propaganda.
Yeah, that was a pretty stark example.
It was, and it really raises questions about, who's controlling the data used to train these systems.
And how do we make sure AI is being used responsibly?
Right. Ethically, these are big questions.
Huge questions that we need to figure out as a society.
Yeah, and it's not just about preventing the bad stuff. It's also about, using AI to make things better.
Absolutely. Like AI could help us solve some of the biggest problems we're facing.
Right, like climate change, disease, poverty.
All of that.
Yeah.
But we have to be really intentional about how we develop and use these technologies.
Yeah, and I think another theme that came up in these articles was like this whole idea of AI versus human intelligence.
Right. A lot of people are worried about AI taking jobs.
Yeah. And making humans obsolete, basically.
I get it. It's a valid concern, but we have to remember that AI is a tool.
It's a tool. That's a good way to put it.
And like any tool, it can be used in good ways or bad ways.
It depends on us, right?
Yeah. We're the ones who decide how it's used and what it's used for.
So instead of being afraid of AI, maybe we should be thinking about, how can we work with it?
How can we use its strengths to make ourselves better?
Right, like in education, for example, those AI tools can be really helpful for students.
As long as they're used responsibly.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance, understanding what AI is good at and what it's not so good at.
It's all about balance.
So as we finish up this deep dive, what are like the key takeaways here? What should our listener be thinking about as they're, navigating this crazy AI world?
I think the biggest thing to remember is that the future of AI isn't set in stone.
It's not inevitable.
No, we're creating it right now with every choice we make.
That's a powerful thought.
It is. It means that we all have a responsibility to make sure AI is used ethically, responsibly, and to make the world a better place.
Well said. So, to our listener out there, stay curious, keep asking questions, and use your imagination.
Yeah, the future of AI is in your hands.
Absolutely. That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
See you next time.